Our audience, they trust us so much. They know that if we're going to put something in front of them, it is worth it.
What was going through your head when you sold Create and Cultivate? And then, of course, I have to ask about the decision to buy it back.
2020 was rough. And so when the offers came in, it felt like the right move for the business. I don't know why, but I called Marina and I was like, maybe we buy this back together. You run it as CEO. And she was like, 100% I'm in, basically.
Immediately.
What is your pitch on the value of the Create and Cultivate community?
Our biggest point for Create and Cultivate is to partner up with brands that can solve a problem and provide access to tools or information or resources to our audience.
What is a conversation that you two had early on in your work partnership that you encourage all other work partners to have?
Oh God, that's a hard one. Hold on.
I'm Sammi Cohen, and this is Social Currency, a podcast that unpacks the stories that are shaping business, culture, and the intersection of the two. Building community is something that every brand wants to do right now, but Jaclyn Johnson and Marina Middleton cracked the code on community long before it was cool. Jaclyn is the founder of Create and Cultivate, one of the most influential communities for women in business, where brand founders, Fortune 500 leaders, and creators gather to actually do the work of building the next big thing. After selling the company in 2021, she made headlines again when she bought it back, this time with a new partner, Marina, at the helm as CEO. Together, Jaclyn and Marina are writing the next chapter for Create and Cultivate, balancing accessibility with profitability, intimacy with scale, and rebuilding a brand that millions of people already felt deeply connected to. They open up about how to sell and then reclaim your life's work, how they divide power and decision-making as co-leaders, and what they've learned about saying the hard stuff out loud. Plus, they give their hot takes on the future of community, what makes people actually show up in a post-pandemic world, and whether virtual events are officially over. This is Jaclyn Johnson and Marina Middleton Social Currency. Jaclyn and Marina, welcome to Social Currency.
We're so excited to be here.
Thank you for having us.
To kick us off, this is a big statement, but I think that community is really the most sought after X factor when it comes to creating direct-to-consumer businesses today. It's really the new authenticity, in my opinion. And Create and Cultivate has completely cracked this code. You had a completely sold out festival that happened in July. So I want to hear from the both of you. What are the must-haves in a live event that make people want to come back for more? And let's get very tactical.
I think in terms of community, because I get asked a lot about building communities, Create Cultivate started a long time ago. So 2011-ish, I think, was like our first event. And I think what really resonated about the event in those early days was no one else was really doing events for female entrepreneurs that also looked and felt like something a millennial female entrepreneur would want to go to. So that's how we sort of differentiated. And I think what we were really lucky to be a part of was that early virality on social media. So people posting on Instagram and saying, what's that? I want to go to that. I'll go to the next one. And so we were really like tuned into that algorithm. And obviously on site, the event experience was super beautiful. So very Instagram worthy and therefore very viral. And so we were able to kind of create that early on. The other thing that was really important as part of building the community was providing value. That was something early on was such a priority. Our website, our content, our events, we wanted people to walk away saying like, I learned so much there. I got so much out of that event because we knew in the early days, our best marketing channel, especially when you have no budget, is happy attendees. People who can tell their friends about it and refer us and say, hey, you have to go to this event. And that's really how it started in the early days, which was like that early word of mouth marketing. And that's how we grew very quickly. I think now it's changed, and I'll let Marina kind of talk about where we're at today.
Yeah, it's funny. So we have over 2 million women in our network now. And over the years of Create and Cultivate, all of the events, what is interesting is now, 2025, I hear a lot of people being like, I'm going to start a community. I'm going to start a community. And I feel very strongly that community is a byproduct of your business or experience or anything. Like you can't like fabricate community and you can't force it. And so what Create and Cultivate has done really well, and as a previous attendee, I felt like a lot of the experiences, to Jaclyn's point, was very like tactical. I would sit in the front row, I would have my notes, and I would have these like true takeaways that I can go, leave, and implement. I think that was a big part of why people kept coming back. And then 90% of our attendees actually come to our events alone. And so they're not coming with their own community, they're building it there when they meet people in person, which is so amazing. I always used to go to the events by myself. And so I think what changed now and what are the biggest things is everything that Create and Cultivate has always done really well, which is content that's really relevant for each person there. We of course have general content, but then we can kind of like choose your own path, right? We have different experiences, different content, different conversations, depending on where they are in their life. And so in this new journey of Create and Cultivate, our biggest thing, as we talk about all the time, is from launch to legacy. So no matter where they are in their career journey, maybe you just started out, maybe you are scaling, maybe you've already exited and you're an investor now and doing different things, like there's content and experiences for you. And I think that is what truly builds community, because nobody outgrows Create and Cultivate. We just grow with them.
I love what you said around the fact that community can't be a standalone product and it really has to come from already an organic experience or offering. And Create and Cultivate has created something that has been very scalable. So I want to hear both of your takes on whether or not you think it's possible to build a community that's both scalable in today's day and age while also being very intimate.
Just to touch on that, because it's funny, I used to assume intimacy or intimate events would be small sizes, right? You can create 2,000 person events and create intimate moments there to make them feel like it's not as overwhelming and large. And so a perfect example is our festival that we just had. It's 2,000 plus attendees. Every year we'll get bigger. One of the questions is, how do we make it still feel intimate? How do we make the connections there really, really important? And so we created something called Connect. And that is our data-driven, AI-powered networking program. And so what it does is it is so personalized. Each attendee gets to create their profile. And so it's a category, their interest, and then it's their intent. And that is the part that makes it very intimate. So they get to pick if they want to be a mentor or find a mentor, if they're looking for a job or they're hiring, if maybe they just want to network on a specific topic. And then our algorithm and our AI will match them with the right person that's relevant to them. That's really hard to do at a 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 person event, right? Find the exact people that you need to connect with. And so that's our biggest way of making these moments intimate. So they feel like, oh, I've met 16 really valuable people and I walked away with like true ROI. And so for us, creating that in large scale events is really important. And that's how we make it intimate.
Yeah. And I would also say we started introducing smaller events, more curated, specific to your business, your niche, your issues, your problems that you're working on. And so we have our retreats. So we have our 7-figure founder retreat. We have a mom retreat. And these are 50 to 75 women that get together and really do these amazing breakout sessions, panels, conversations, and you kind of come to the table with what you're working on in your business. And that was something that was completely new to Create and Cultivate. You know, when I was, running the company back in the day, we were just doing big event after big event after big event. I mean, truly, I think the smallest events were probably 75 to 100 person panel conversations and things like that. And maybe a few dinners, but those were mostly around influencers and things like that. And so when I met Marina, she was really already running retreats and masterminds and things of that nature and was, kind of introduced me to that concept. And for me, I was always like, I don't know if it'll like translate with our audience. I think they come for like the bigger experiences. And we launched our first retreat last year and it sold out in 2 weeks. And we realized like this is something that people are craving as well. And it was such an amazing experience, even for me, like going into it, because for the first time, I meet attendees all the time at the big events, but it's like a quick, hi, oh my God, your business. This was like, I know you, I know your business, I know your struggles, I know what you're looking for, I know how to help you. Like it was such an amazing experience. And those women are now like our super fans and they come to every event and they have their own networks and conversations going on too. So I think it's that combo that really like makes the difference.
I think that having the diversity of the types of events, because I hear you on, Marina, what you said around the intimacy part and adding intimacy into the larger events. But from my POV, it still is a different experience if you're going and it's more of a, sub 20 person thing. I'm not sure how we'll get into how big the 7-figure founder event will be, but I think that it's almost different levels of intimacy that you can get to depending on the scale of the event. I want to talk about the monetization piece. So some private clubs, networking groups, really any business that's focused around community, many of them have had challenges around setting a price point. And I see creators in the business and finance world grapple with this tension between providing resources for everyone while also monetizing the resources, right? So how does Create and Cultivate think about the balance between accessibility while also running a very profitable business?
Early days, the way we were looking at the business and the way we wanted to monetize was through sponsors. We really did not want to monetize the audience. We wanted to be as accessible as possible and provide as much resource and value. And so really the only events we ever charged for was like our own proprietary Create and Cultivate conferences. And we kept those ticket prices the same forever. And they actually are still the same. Like our GA price is the same price as our GA price in 2016. Every other event that we did with brand partners was free. So these are in-store events, pop-up events, whatever, like, because we wanted to create as much accessibility as possible and provide as much value as possible. And in turn, that created loyalty. And so our audience was like, I get so much out of this. They do so much, and like really give me that opportunity to be a part of it. And so it's actually interesting because when Marina and I launched the retreat, this is a higher ticket price. And I was nervous. I was like, oh, I don't know, because obviously they're getting so much value, so much it's so hands-on, it's multiple days, all the things. And what I found was people were more than happy to pay for that because we had, again, provided that value for so many years and also been an authority in the space. They knew the type of talent that we brought to the table. They knew the type of content we were creating. And they also had heard my story or Marina's story and resonated with that and really wanted to get in the room with those people. And that was something that was always so important to me, was I really wanted people to feel like they were getting in the room with people they otherwise couldn't have, because I was getting in the room with the people I otherwise couldn't have. And so being able to put these people on stage and get in front of your dream business idol and hear them speak, our goal to monetize is through brand partnerships at the end of the day. And these are super authentic brand partnerships that provide also value for our audience. And of course we monetize our audience where it makes sense. And again, that was a newer thing post 2020, I would say. I think monetizing courses, workshops, tools, all those things, it kind of fever pitched 2021, something like that, where I didn't even think to sell those things. And so for us, I think longer term, we always want to be providing the best possible experience, the best possible value, and really create that sense of loyalty amongst our audience.
And that's the only world I know is monetizing the audience, courses, masterminds, retreats, right? So sure, when I was in corporate, all I did was work on the sponsors, but from the other side, right? I was working with these brands. When I went out on my own, all I did was charge $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 for retreats and masterminds. And they were so intimate. And I would do one-on-one coaching and one-on-one consulting and I was in it. And what I realized very quickly, and that's actually how I ended up meeting Jaclyn, is so many people were paying for that. They were paying tens and $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 to be in these rooms. And what I realized, and what was very triggering for me, is that they weren't getting in the rooms with other people that built from scratch, sold their businesses. They weren't investors. They were just accidental entrepreneurs, which was awesome too. And I was like, how do we get in the room with the network that Create and Cultivate has? And that was my biggest thing. We need this. And so I remember when I reached out to Jaclyn, I was like, do you want to start this mastermind? And she's crazy and was like, yeah. And I'm like, let's ride, let's do it, And so to that point, it's I knew that people were spending. I knew people were investing in themselves. It was so important to do that. And I knew that Create and Cultivate, 1, does events better than anyone else. And 2, has one of the best and largest network of talent and audience and sponsors and partners. Why wouldn't we go all in on that, right? And so it was a really beautiful blend of bringing those together.
Yeah, it sounds like with your background and experience and everything that you had built with Create and Cultivate, it really was the perfect marriage of just skill sets and backgrounds. I mean, it is a work marriage. And we're going to get into that in a second. But we've talked a lot about the relationship that Create and Cultivate has had with brands. So I want to hear, when you are talking to these brands, perhaps it's a new marquee brand that you're trying to pitch on being a sponsor. What is your pitch on the value of the Create and Cultivate community?
It's funny. I don't go into any of these calls pitching the Create and Cultivate value. I want to understand what is value for them. What do they want, right? I know our community and our audience and our reach through and through. But I think a lot of the times we forget that when we're getting on these calls, they have a goal. They have KPIs to meet. That's all they care about. And I want to understand, who are they trying to get in front of? And then that navigates the conversation of okay, well then the festival is really good for you, or then the retreat, and here's why, and here's our audience and how much they're spending and what they need to hear and what they need to be in front of. Our biggest point for Create and Cultivate is to partner up with brands that can solve a problem and provide access to tools or information or resources to our audience. If you can't do that, it's going to be really hard for both of us to win. And so that's why it feels like a lot of our brands are, it's like so organic when you go. Like our brands have the best results. This is not even a plug. Like whether they're coming because they're recruiting, whether they're coming for a new product that they're launching, whether they're introducing a different like strategy, they're doing it in front of an audience that wants to know about it. And so it's that value both, but I don't go in thinking, oh, like, let me tell you about our audience. Let me tell you how large it is. It's more of like, who are you trying to get in front of? Let me learn more about you and then talking about us.
When we're talking about the range of different outcomes that a brand is looking for, whether that's general awareness or, hey, we're launching this new product line, or we want to see potentially specific KPIs, could you just give my audience an example of like, what are the examples of tactical things that these brands may be looking for when they partner with Create and Cultivate?
It varies. So brand awareness is a big one. Create and Cultivate has a massive reach, whether it's just through the audience that's coming, whether it's the press hits that we get, like we just have a very large reach, and our own CNC proprietary properties as well. And so brand awareness is a big one. So they just want to get in front of as many people as possible, right? The other side of it is they want conversion, and that conversion looks different. So for Goldman Sachs, for example, their conversion is that they want people to join their 10,000 small businesses, right? Getting them in front of the right people is more important than getting them in front of the most amount of people. And so that's where we talk to them about our mastermind, the Blueprint Mastermind, or the retreat, or maybe our dinner that's more intimate, but we know that 75 of those people would be the most ideal candidate for them. And so it helps that we have different types of properties or events that they can kind of partner up. But I would say brand awareness and leads are the biggest one.
Yeah, I would also say, depending on the brand, sampling is huge. Like I think sampling is such a huge opportunity for brands. Like we have such high conversion, even on our gift bags, of like people who give samples, seeing like that convert to sales on their website. That's definitely a big one as well. And I would also just say sales on site. Like people can sell on site and like make so much money, obviously make back your sponsorship fee very quickly. So it really just depends on the type of brand. But this year's actually interesting because we have 2 brands that are actively or 3 brands that are recruiting, which is really exciting. So we have Fora Travel, who's recruiting travel agents, which already worked because my sister signed up. I was like, perfect. Consi, which is a platform that is a matching platform for job seekers. And then Zillow, who's also looking for employees as well. So that's kind of a new, cool spin I've seen this year.
And when Zillow activated Future Summit, our Austin event, I think in that, 4-hour event, they got like 700 talent that they were interested in. And they were like, this is insane. We've never seen this. And so to Jaclyn's point, even about the sales, our audience, and this goes back to the 10 years that Jaclyn has built Create and Cultivate, they trust us so much that they know that if we're going to put something in front of them, it is worth it. And so when they come, their intention at Create and Cultivate is different than the intention that they have at other events, because they're coming in, they're ready to buy, whether it's like jewelry on site, products on site. They're ready to talk about job search. They're ready to like talk about their problems and get it solved on site. It's just a different energy than I've even personally seen at events.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah, and someone even said to me once, and I thought that was so true, and you kind of nailed it, was when you're sponsoring Create and Cultivate, it's not like you're showing up at an event. You are buying into the trust of that audience. Like you're getting the head start in that audience as well. So I think that was like a perfect point.
I want to go back in time. Jaclyn, what was going through your head when you sold Create and Cultivate? And then, of course, I have to ask about the decision to buy it back. So I'm sure that is a very long chapter, story, yes. But give me the high level points.
Yeah. So Create and Cultivate was a bootstrap business. So I think that's always important to point out, because I think we're living in the land of venture capital and everyone, has that sort of, not safety net, but in a way a safety net. So we were completely bootstrapped from the beginning and built that company year over year, just explosive growth and really learning along the way. And so it was interesting because I had sold my first company. So I had been through that process. I understood what that looked like. And I knew that would be the end goal for Create and Cultivate long term. And so in 2018, we actually had a lot of acquisition offers, and we went down a course process and almost got to the finish line with a company. And it was basically a done deal. And then it kind of fell apart in the nth hour, which was a major learning lesson for me, but also kind of opened my eyes to the possibility of selling and what that number could look like and how we could really do it. And so the goal after the 2018 fall apart was 2019, let's just go pedal to the metal. One of the reasons why the deal fell apart in 2018 was the lack of a C-suite as part of the company. We were 8 people. We were very tiny. The sales team was me, and I was also the CEO and doing a million things. So it was very early in the company. And so the C-suite was really important. So brought on the C-suite, brought in more of those like higher level hires in 2019, saw a massive impact on the company in a good way. It was our biggest, best year yet. Q1 2020, we did over $5 million in revenue. We're on track to do $25 million that year. And then COVID. So it was really devastating in a lot of ways because obviously this company longer term should have sold for a lot more money at the end of the day. But, you know, in that time of 2020, like every entrepreneur, just scrambling to keep your business alive. We were really lucky. We pivoted very quickly into digital. We're very successful in that. We were able to maintain the team and everyone kind of turned into digital experts and course experts and all the things. And, you know, getting through 2020, I think for anyone, especially in the experiential space, was extremely challenging because of the way we pivoted, because of the press we got, and because of the success of that and the reach. You know, our first digital event reached over 10,000 people in 50 different countries, which was exciting for us too. You know, we had people tuning in from all over the world. So that became interesting to us in a way to expand the business in a larger way. Should events not come back? Should events come back? Great. Now we have 2 massive revenue sources and a wider audience worldwide. So that became an interesting story to private equity. I think strategic buyers at that point were all struggling and trying to get back, you know, their footing back as well. And so when private equity came into the mix, it was kind of a twofold thing. One was I had no idea where the world was going, right? Like I didn't know if events were coming back, what they would look like, what that could be like. 2 was that I knew we would like need backing, like some sort of, you know, capital injection longer term to make this massive pivot into digital and kind of take a step in that direction. And 3 was I was totally burnt out. I was really exhausted. It'd been 10 plus years of just like 150-hour weeks. And, you know, in a good way, I loved this company, but I also just had like 2020 was rough. And so when the offers came in, it felt like the right move for the business. It was a good outcome, obviously for me and for the shareholders and things like that. And the private equity firm was on board to bring in a new CEO who was an expert in the digital space because that was the direction we were going. I mean, this is end of 2020. So that kind of weird time. And so we ended up selling to private equity, a majority stake. And I was on board for, I think like 6-7 months after, and then stayed on board as like a board member and a consultant for the next year or so. And in the meanwhile, I just like slept a lot. Like, you know, it was weird. It was like I slept, I gardened, I like woke up and had no emails, and it was like a very out of body experience. Like I remember I went to the grocery store at like 2 p.m. once and I was like, this is so crazy. Like, who are you people? But it was nice. I needed a beat. And after I kind of like regrouped, I ended up running a $20 million fund for a family office. And so got, you know, into my investor hat and ended up starting Cherub, which is the company that connects angel investors and entrepreneurs with my co-founder. Ended up meeting Marina and we started the Blueprint Mastermind. So I was kind of just like in dabble mode where I was like, okay, I have like projects in the mix and, you know, this is exciting. And Blueprint was super successful year 1. And then essentially I got a phone call. It was like, you know, talking about doing a secondary sale for Create and Cultivate and, you know, what that could look like. And it was much quicker than we anticipated. The call was definitely more of a shock. Like my immediate reaction was, okay, like who could be good for this? Like what kind of partnership could we do? How do we like navigate this? And so I, you know, was given like kind of like, you know, some time to think about it and like what the next steps could be. And you know, they were moving along the process. And I don't know why, but I called Marina and I was like, we had just finished like a big retreat of ours that we were doing for Blueprint. And I was like, this is what's happening. I don't know why, but I feel like there's a world in which maybe we buy this back together. You run it as CEO and like Blueprint fits into that. And like, I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it sounds like. I don't know. And I was like really not selling her on it. And she was like, 100% I'm in. Basically.
Immediately,
yes. And I was like, okay, but like, I really mostly just spent time trying to talk you out of it. But I was like, it's going to be a lot. And like, you know, we have this audience and like, it's, you know, it's kind of coming out of this weird place. And she was like, no, I'm in. And so basically we began the process. So I had to really kind of recuse myself from the negotiations and stuff because I was on both sides. And really Marina came in and got that deal over the line months later. And it was funny because like when we got back the company, it was like, okay, now what? And
Literally.
so now what? And it was great though, because I think like we had this moment where it was like new guard, old guard. And it was very much like, I was like, here's what worked and was so amazing and so exciting about Create and Cultivate. And I think that is our secret sauce and that we absolutely should lean into. here's all the negative things that come with that. Like, you know, it is going to be a grind. We also are starting from scratch, like $0 in funding. So we're literally starting from 0, 0, 0. How do we go from 0 to, you know, millions? And what does that look like? Is it just small events? Do we just, because it's just you and I at this point? Yeah. And I was like, or do we go big and like, you know, blow it out and like raise money and do, and like just go to, and she was like, that one. And I was like, but we could also do the smaller event. And she was like, no. And I was like, okay, you're a psychopath. I love this. So from that, we raised angel investment rather quickly from some amazing women, started making our first hires, put together our strategy specifically around this like festival idea and model, which Marina can talk more about, and raised venture capital. And like the rest was history. It was literally like, it was like this little baby flame that we like doused gasoline on top of. And it's been like that ever since.
That is quite the story.
It's pretty crazy, yeah.
And so, Marina, when you got that initial call from Jaclyn, why was your answer 100% yes?
One, because it was Jaclyn. I knew like, I just wanted to build with her. I don't know what it was, but we were just we're the same. Like our work ethic is the same. Our like everything is the same. And so I was like, this is really good. And I had been a solopreneur forever. I'm also an only child. I've never had any partners besides my husband, you know, like literally. So I was like, this is fun. Like I get to call someone when something happens. Like I've never experienced that before. And so whatever it was, I really wanted to do it with her. And then I love Create and Cultivate so much. Like it's a dangerous amount how much I love the brand. And I did before I owned it. It changed the trajectory of my career. Like I was saying earlier, I would write these notes. My dreams felt very attainable in these rooms. And all of these women would come and be like, oh, this is my goal. And I had never been in experiences like that, especially in corporate. Like that wasn't my world. And so those two together, I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And I remember when Jaclyn, like, I'll never forget it. We were in LA and she's like, we had bought, or like we were in the process and she's like, we can do these events and we're crushing it in Blueprint. Let's do Blueprint. And she's looking at me and she was like, you hate it. I was like, I don't hate it. She's like, you want to go big. Like you want, and I was like, let's just do it. Like if we're going to do it, let's go all in. And we did. And it's been like the best experience literally of my life. It's so cool.
We've talked about this dynamic of Jaclyn, you obviously being a huge part of the company, but not acting as CEO. So my question is really around this concept of CEOs that are the face of the brand, right? Like in business and tech, there are the Sam Altmans, the Elon Musks, and obviously the concern from investors is that when that key individual walks away or retires, that a brand that is synonymous with a certain person then has a lot more risk associated. Jaclyn, because you've always been so synonymous with Create and Cultivate, and in this new chapter, you're now very much incorporating the new CEO, Marina, what advice can you both give about evolving leadership when you are very much changing, you know, who may be the sole face of the company?
I think it's a really antiquated viewpoint to view that as a risk. I think in 2018, that was also part of the decision not to move forward on that deal, was because the guy literally said to me, if you get hit by a bus, what did we buy? Which was crazy. Wow. It was a really like eye-opening moment. But in my head, I was like, you're not seeing this. Essentially also, I had signed with CAA and a Deadline article came out about it and it threw them off, the buyer. They were like, you just want to be famous. This was like the exact words. And I was like, also me getting more popular is good for the company. Like my popularity is tied to the fact that I have a good business, that I have this business that people love. Like that's the correlation. No one's like trying to buy my jeans. No one's trying to whatever. Like that is my persona and brand, you know, the brand. And it was such a weird old school reaction to it. I was like, they don't understand that this is such a benefit in a way. It's really interesting because I think it is a blessing and a curse sometimes to be the face of the business. I remember like, because I think people don't understand, being the face is also a job. There is so much work involved in that. To just be behind the scenes and doing your P&L and just living in Excel and, you know, on Excel and Slack, what a dream. And then, not only that, but you have to be on podcasts, be doing news, be creating content. It's so much. It's so much. It's so layered. And so it's interesting because I think for me in this second go around, you know, I'm so happy I have Marina, much to her point, doing it alone is very, very hard. And I did it alone for a very long time. And I think what's interesting is like Marina's story is so inspiring, but also I'm like, yeah, this is your time to shine. Like you are building this company. You are the CEO. Like you're doing it. Like we don't need to just have one person that's the face of everything. Like Marina doing this is so special for our audience too, because I'm like, meet the woman doing it, you know? And I think there's been such a good reception to her. And not only that, it's like, we're so different in so many ways. Like Marina is a mom, you know, she's super young. I'm so old. No, but it is like a different generation. Like I've been doing this for so long, and it's like, it's really like your background in corporate and solopreneurship, and like, we're so different that I'm like, how exciting for the audience to be able to learn from two people that have such different backgrounds. And I will also say, I think there was so much success in Create and Cultivate because I was building it alongside the audience, and they got to see me go from like sweatpants on site, looking crazy, picking up trash, like moving chairs and like never being on stage to like 2017 being like, maybe I should like get glam and like go on, you know, like, and it was like, they saw that evolution and built and saw me build alongside it, which is why I think the sale of Create and Cultivate was such a win for the female entrepreneurship audience, because one, they saw me build it in public for so long. Two, it was bootstrapped. And three, it was like such a win for this type of business, because the businesses we see get acquired are typically, right, beauty, food, CPG. It is very rare to see like an experiential company that's built for women by women get bought for a decent amount. So I think that was like such a win for them. And it's exciting because now I'm like, we're doing it over again, but this time Marina's doing it. And how exciting to watch her journey as she builds it.
You were really an OG of the building in public, which is now just, actually did a post on this the other week of how building in public, that phrase is now just actually building, because now it's kind of this built-in expectation as a founder. Actually, on that same note, something that you had said earlier, Marina, that really I adore, and I think it's a really excellent model for anyone who is a super fan and has this love and appreciation for any kind of business. I think it's so inspiring that someone who was really bought into everything that Create and Cultivate stood for, you attended the events, you would show up alone, and you were just so amped up about what the company was doing, to now literally running the company. That is so cool. I get chills when I think about that. And I think just for the listeners, I think that's such a great inspirational story of how you can literally be attending an event to then a few years later running the company.
Yeah, no, I cry about it daily. I literally tell Jaclyn all the time, like, I can't believe this is what we're doing. This is so cool, because it is really cool. And I have a 9-year-old, and you forget, like all of us, we forget when we're working. It is a lot of work. Like I actually don't think people understand the sheer hours that go into it for my whole team to bring, whether it's a 50-person event to a 2,000-person event to life. And so he asked me one time, like, oh, like, this is so fun that you do this. And I was like, it is really fun. Like, thank you for saying that. Like, thank you for that reminder. And so it's very cool to be on the other side. And I think that also is why our partnership works so well, is because coming in as a previous attendee, I know those experiences on the other side. I'm like, oh, I really like that they did that. Oh, wow, that was an amazing ad. Hey, I actually would love if I could see this. And so it's a really great blend.
I want to ask about the work, marriage, and partnership that's going on here. What is a conversation that you two had early on in your work partnership that you encourage all other work partners to have?
I don't know what that conversation is, because we didn't have it early on, which I think is why it was like, we were insane early on. I think it was just like,
well, I will say we had we were lucky in that it wasn't like we met and I was like, do you want to be the CEO of this company? We worked together on Blueprint for over a year.
Yeah. And
she was like the CEO of Blueprint. So it was like, I kind of got this like, and that was so different, right? Because it was something we built from the start together, from ground up. But I got to see her work ethic and how she worked, and it was so good and easy. Coming into Create and Cultivate, I think was a little more challenging, but we'll be honest, like we had a few tough conversations at the beginning, because the trust is so important. And I don't necessarily just mean like trust in each other, but the trust that like we want the best for the business and one another. Her success is my success. And I think once we aligned on that, where we're like, right, like I only succeed if she succeeds. She only succeeds if I succeed. And like, if we kind of go into that together, then we'll have a really successful partnership. And once we did that, it was like the easiest thing in the world.
Exactly. And I think that we didn't align early on. And I think that, like, going back to that question, we didn't have a chance to sit down and say, hey, this is what I want to work on. This is what you want to work on. And so coming in, right, and first time CEO of this massive brand alongside a founder who just sold it for millions and millions of dollars, that was so public facing. And I love personal brands. I think it's very important that each person, founders, employees, all have their own personal brands. And so coming alongside that as a first time like newbie, I felt like there was also a lot of ego on my end that came in, that I was like, oh, like, I want to be perfect at this and I'm going to do it this way. And she was like, hey, listen, I've done 10 plus years of this. This didn't work and here's why, right? And so like, I think it was a shift too of like, oh, there's actually so much value that there's a legacy and the new, and how do we blend that too? And so that conversation is like, sit down, align on what do you want to focus on and what do you want to focus on, and divide and conquer. And I feel like we're very much in our lanes now, and I love it because one, we're scaling faster. Two, again, we're best friends. And so we're very direct. I'm also just a very direct person to begin with. And so that, like, we're able to have those conversations.
And I think like the tone of the conversations is always, hey, here's been my experience. Here's what went right. Here's what went wrong. But at the end of the day, it's her decision because she's the CEO. And I always say this to you. I'm like, and that comes with like a lot of excitement. Like, you get to make a lot of decisions. I'm like, but you're also fiscally responsible for the business. Yeah. So that comes with a lot of pressure. So I'm like, at the end of the day, it's always Marina's decision on, you know, unless it's like creative stuff, which I like really lead the charge on, but like business wise, it's Marina. And I'm like, but here's what I would do and here's my thoughts. And it's like, sometimes she's like, you know what, you're right, let's do that. And sometimes she's like, I'm going to keep going with my decision. And like, that's just the reality of the relationship. So I think it's like, I think you have to have a really good power dynamic and a lot of confidence. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's really challenging for a lot of people to give up that power. It was very easy for me. Yeah. I said, good luck, babe. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I think like that's all I can do, right? Is just give the best advice I think is out there and offer my connections and how I can help. And, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, she has the vision and, you know, support it.
I call her all the time and I'm like, hey, I need your advice on this one. Like I usually like I was like, what do you think? And she'll, whether it's a gut check or something. And this is what I'm saying about like, when we were driving yesterday and I was like, would you ever start another business with me? And she's like, yeah, like obviously, like we'll just do a bunch of things together forever. And I'm like, no, literally, like I just don't know how I would build a business again by myself, because who would I call? My husband's listening to this, like,
yeah, I have literally no one. No, but I will say building a business with a partner, it's so much nicer. Yeah. Like it's nice when you both have skin in the game and you're, you know, the feeling you both are in the same experience.
Last 3 questions I ask every guest. Can both of you share a system that you have in place? And it can be anything that impacts either your career or business.
It's less of a system, but it's more of just like my own personal thing. But I'm like an inbox zero person. Like I have to no matter what, get to the place where anything that has to be urgent or responded to, I do by end of day. I can't wake up with like knowing I have stuff. I'll always have stuff to do, but I'm like, I just like to get to the end of that. That's like really important to me.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely that. But one thing that I do, it's every Monday. My team is probably listening to this and they're like, yeah, we hate it. But I send out my Monday morning like Slack, and it is so long, but it just organizes, one, all of my thoughts, two, everything that we're working on and bringing the whole team together. This is something I started doing a couple months ago, and it has just change the energy of the week, because everybody just knows like, okay, this department's working on this and this team is working on this, and here's the two that blend together. So that's something new that I do, and I use ChatGPT for it. And so when I'm going for my walk or I'm working out or anything, I actually just do like the voice to talk audio on chat, and I'm just like, here are the things that I want to recap, tell Kat this, Audrey needs to get this done for marketing. Hey, where are we with talent? Like, and I talk through it. It writes my morning. I do a countdown for whatever event that we're planning for, and then I send it out.
I love that. And I love the voice to text feature. That's best. Like, I'm on that every day. Next question comes from the Social Currency Corner, where I get your insight on something that's impacting business and culture. In 2021, of course, this is COVID times, which was a huge shifting point for Create and Cultivate. A LinkedIn report found that 75% of event marketers say that they would continue to run virtual events over the long term. So cut to 2025. What are your points of view on virtual events today? And is there still an appetite for them?
I think it was really interesting because I think there was just so much appetite for that for so long. And then slowly but surely, I think we all started to see the Zoom, viewers decrease. I think there's room for live streaming. I think there's also room for, post content of these events and really being able to digest it and look at and view those videos and feel like you're there. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't necessarily think the impact, especially given AI, everyone wants to be in person. Everyone wants to be part of the experience. And I think virtual did what it needed to do during that time. But I think longer term, especially as we keep getting more and more integration of AI, it's the in-person events are always going to trump virtual.
Yeah, our retreats and masterminds have a both in-person and virtual component to it. And our in-person always changes does better, but it changes the experience virtually. It is very hard to keep people's attention virtually now, whether it's through a membership, which I hate, but a membership platform that you trying to get them to talk every day, all day on a new it's just very hard, especially with all the meetings. So I think 100% sprinkle it in for sure. But I do believe it has to be a byproduct of an in-person experience. You know what I mean? An add-on, but it can't be your sole thing.
Agreed.
We're ending with a listener question, and this is for each of you. What is a professional accomplishment that each of you hope to achieve over the next 2 to 3 years?
Oh, wow. That's a really good one. You can start.
Professional accomplishment? Oh, gosh. I mean, doubling the festival next year would probably be the accomplishment. The fact that we were able to pull this off and sell out with it was the vision we always had. But when you're creating that vision a year out, you're when is this going to actually look like? How are we going to actually do it? And then you do it. And I think already for next year, we have this vision of doubling the entire experience and it's going to be so exciting. So that's something that I think is for me, a big bucket list item.
Yeah, I would say, for who's listening now, I just hit one of my biggest accomplishments, which is the first year of festival. That's a big deal. And so I think in the next 3+ years, I would say continuing to grow the business and focusing on how can we make more impact, obviously, through the festival. So I would echo Jaclyn.
This has been an incredible conversation. Thank you both for joining me today. I'll link both of your personal handles and, of course, Create and Cultivate in the show notes. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Social Currency. I've been wanting to launch this show for so long. I can't tell you how excited I am to do this and how thrilled I am that you're actually here listening. It means the world to me. If you liked what you heard today, please rate and review the podcast because it massively helps to support the work I do to bring the show to life. And if you want to keep up with the hottest business lore in real time, follow me on Instagram at Sammi Cohen Talks and subscribe to my newsletter, Social Currency, which is linked in the show notes. Social Currency is a production of Social Currency Media and Money News Network. The podcast is hosted and executive produced by me, Sammi Cohen. Social Currency is produced by the Money News Network team. See you next time.